princess.
Oh my God, it's Spark here. Look at that.
Guys. Okay. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing just for a second on our last very serious note of the night. Today, obviously, is the 6-month anniversary of the September 11th tragedy. We're going to take a moment of silence to remember those who lost their lives on that date, and especially the policemen and firefighters. Thank you. Art? Is that right? I don't know. It's a communications device.
Okay. Speaking to the aliens up top.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, before you, the minutes of the public meeting of February 25th. Any additions or corrections?
Will they be approved? Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
An executive meeting was held in the office of the Township Manager prior to the public meeting of February 25th, where personnel litigation and real estate acquisition was discussed. All commissioners were present. Tonight, as everyone knows, is Appreciation Night, where we honor everyone who has, and I think it's an appropriate night to do it, being the 100th anniversary of the government. We haven't done it for a while due to illness of some of our key people and so on. So tonight we're honoring the commissioners, township employees, and members of boards and commissions that have left township service since the last time we had Appreciation Night. We're not going to have time, just because there's so many, because we haven't done this for a while, to call everybody up individually, but let's recognize at least our fellow commissioners. I saw Mr. Andrews. He's here, former 4th Ward Commissioner. Fran, thank you. Bill Black is in the house. I saw him. Mr. Black, thank you. Jim Marks, was he able to make it tonight? We did not hear back from him. And Clint said that he would try to make it, and I don't see him. I'm sure he'll be at the Willows. He wanted to see the outfits, he told me. And then for retiring township employees, let's recognize them if they're here too. Dave Geist.
Not here.
Dave. George Holman. Former engineer Duncan Hubley, I see him. Yeah. Bob Morris. Bob. Oh. And Tom Temperio. Tom. That's it. And just in the back door there is Mr. Stunneback, former 2nd Ward Commissioner.
Yay!
All right, and former members of boards and commissions, I'll read through it quickly. You going to keep up with this as best you can, Chet?
No.
Okay.
But I'll
Just read the
try.
names.
Okay, because we don't know who's here and
Not
who's
in
not.
order.
Yeah, just read all the names.
These are in alphabetical order on my
Well,
on my list.
plaques aren't.
Do the best you can, and please hold your applause till the end so we can go through the list. Judge Burr, who is solicitor of the Zoning Hearing Board. Thank you, Judge. Judge Burr is here. Don Cooley from Code Appeals Board, who we saw over the past few months was very difficult to replace. Lynn Coughlin-Sampson of the 6th Ward from the Board of Health. Phil Deming, a very valuable contributor to the Cable Council. Bud Dilworth, also from the Code Appeals Board. Jim Greenfield from the Planning Commission. Art Hartel, I see him here from Cable. Commissioner Hervada here to my left served on the Ethics Board. Tom Corrick also served on the Ethics Board. Pat Kerr served on Park and Rec. Bill Lynch on Cable. Andy Mark served as chairman of the Civil Service Commission. He's, by the way, he's part of the entertainment for tonight. He's not here because his band is setting up over at the Willows as we speak. Tom Masterson from the Cable Council. Gayla McCluskey from the Board of Health, who's back in service again on the AAC. Thank you, Gayla. John Nagel, I saw him here. John from Park and Rec. Steve Palantonio, I saw him, Planning Commission, now serving on the Comprehensive Land Use Committee. Eve Pierce just left the Planning Commission. John Randolph, a member of the Zoning Hearing Board. Maureen Roosh from the Cable Council. Dodie Tagg, former chairman of the Park and Recreation Board. Harriet Waldron from Ethics. John Ward from, formerly on Shade Tree, who's been pressed back into service on Shade Tree. Thank you, John. Mary Ellen Whalen, just left the Library Board and also served as a former chairman of the Park and Rec Committee. Thank you, Mary Ellen. Bruce Wilson served on the Cable Council, been pressed back into service on the Cable Council. And Liz Yeager, who has served on the Shade Tree Commission. I want to thank everybody who's taken the time to serve on our various boards and commissions and for coming back into service when we need you. Thank you very much. Okay, community development,
No report?
finance and audit, Mr. Hrvada.
Yeah, one item on the agenda. We have before you the bills payable for the month of February. I move for their approval.
Second. Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That's it, and no library report
No
tonight.
library report, personal administration, no report, park and rec, Mrs. Adams.
Just one item to announce this evening, and that is the Renahan Memorial Basketball Tournament. The Radnor Township Renahan 3-on-3 basketball tournament will be held on Saturday, March 16th at Radnor High School from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. The tournament is held in tribute to Jack Renahan, who was a good friend and instrumental in starting the girls' basketball program in the township, and also very active in the sports programs at Radnor Township. The tournament proceeds will benefit the Jack Renahan Educational Fund and the Radnor High School Scholarship Program. Teams wishing to enter can obtain registration forms at the Radnor Township Parks and Recreation Office or may call Brian Curley at 610-527-3062 or Peter Brindle at 610-688-0844 for more information. No further business under Park and Recreation this evening.
Thank you. Public health, Mr. Cannon.
No report.
Public safety, Mr. Spingler.
Yes, I'd like to move the approval of ordinance number 2002-8 regarding parking signs by order of the fire marshal at Starbucks.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to move the introduction of an ordinance stop signs on Radnor Chester Road.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to move an introduction of an ordinance for a stop sign on Newtown Road.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I just wanted to mention these stop signs, as you come down Newtown Road to make that left-hand turn onto Radnor Chester, that's what this stop sign is. And the stop sign on Radnor Chester is you come up from Conestoga and Radnor Chester, you're allowed to turn. If you're making a right-hand turn, you would no longer be allowed to make that turn without stopping. Next, I would like to introduce an ordinance prohibited parking on Conestoga Road.
Second?
Any discussion?
Where on Conestoga?
Where is that, Bill?
That's on,
Or Jerry?
it's for a distance of 52 feet on 829, 831 Conestoga Road, and for a distance of 75 feet affecting 833 Conestoga Road. That's down, I guess that's between,
On either side of the bakery.
Right, the bakery.
okay.
Near Meredith Avenue.
Anything else, Mr. Spingler?
Yes, I have one thing. I would like to give the fire company report to the commissioners for February 2002. Fire responses in Radnor were 51. There were 23 false automatic alarms. We hope we can cut down on those. Fire responses in different were 9. Other fire responses were 5 for 65 total fire responses. Fortunately, the fire loss for the month was only $500, so we had no serious fires. There was 1 citizen injury and no firefighter injuries. Workman hours for emergency service was 443. Work hours for training was 196. Your volunteer fire company put in 638 hours. And we certainly appreciate what they do for us. And again, their annual fundraising letter will be going out for the fire and the ambulance, and I hope everyone in Radnor responds. We get about a 25-30% response, and we really need to do a lot better job. We want to continue our volunteer fire company, and anyone wishing to volunteer to help out in the Radnor the fire company, you don't have to go out on fires. There's plenty of jobs that people can do. Accounting jobs, treasurers, there's a lot of things you could do without going on a truck. We certainly need people also to volunteer to go out on trucks, so think about that. And I'll just mention the ambulance response to 145 emergency calls for February. So we certainly appreciate our fire company and our ambulance, what they do for us, and we got to continue to support them as best we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Public Works and Sewer, Mr. Mahoney.
The first item on the agenda is an authorization to apply for the MTRP Electrical Utility Grant to plant trees under utility wires. David, can I send this one over to you or to Jane Golis?
Sure.
Do
I
understand
believe
this?
I saw Jane earlier. Jane, would you mind briefing the board real quickly? There is Jane. Do you mind? Come to the mic.
Yeah, I understand that this is an application which Jane has prepared as the chair of the Shade Tree Commission for a total amount of $3,000. Brief explanation, Jane?
Okay. PICO has this new program, the MTRP program for planting trees under wires. Actually, I knew about it from several years ago when they were actually listed in the brochure, and yet when I contacted them like 4 years ago, and they never heard of it, and I said, well, you're in the brochure. And then about around Christmas time, I noticed in the flyers we get from the community service people that they were actually back in the program. They were saying they were. So I called their local forester, Alex Brown, and he said they were. And I said, well, we were the first people to respond to this. So I said, well, I'm very interested in applying for it. And Commissioner Cannon contacted Vince and me, and it's about that runoff area along the P&W, the embankment there on Conestoga Road, that you were looking to do improvements there. And I mentioned to him that, well, maybe PICO could pick up, this fund grant could be used for planting that once it was all built. Anyway, when I called Alex Brown, he was interested in that. This is a long story. And he said, well, I'd like to come out and see it. So I said, great, we'll come out and see it. So we went there to meet. Real quick thing is he took one look at it and said, there's so much work to do, you'll never be there to plant trees in the fall for this upcoming round. Yet, since you've contacted us and you're the first municipality to do so, is there somewhere else you could plant trees? And I said, oh, well, right here, right not at the entrance to Clemacrone Park, because there's a street there, because we were there, So that's where that came from, and I thought as long as the district forester for PICO was out there, and he'd seen the site. That's why I used that location.
So we're dead solid locked to get this, right?
Well, I would hope so. So I also took him over to Fenimore because he didn't know where it was, and he has to take a tree down there, so.
Well, I think it's a very good,
But
very
any
good
trees,
application.
yeah, and I thought that, if we contact the homeowners, and there are extra trees from this money, then obviously we could plant them elsewhere front with that.
all right, great.
And he
Well,
was interested in continuing the program.
Well, thank you very much, Jane. I appreciate the explanation, and I would move the authorization of this.
Second.
Any other
Hopefully
discussion?
we'll get it.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next item on the agenda is the introduction of an ordinance regarding acceptance of the public improvements in the Laurier subdivision. Dan, is everything in order on this one?
Yes, everything's fine.
Okay, I would move the introduction of this ordinance.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Nice ears, Dan.
Could you hear that okay?
answer
Dan?
seriously?
Yeah, really.
And that's all we have with Public Works and Sewer.
Instills a lot of confidence in the residents. We have 200 employees and a $40 million budget, and here we are, everybody dressed like this to run the township's business. Keep our sense of humor. Thank you, Hank. Any commissioners have any old business? Any commissioners have any new business other than the time capsule that we're going to talk about next? Okay, as you know, the culmination of the Centennial project is going to be the burying of the time capsule, which we're going to do. First of all, I want to thank all township residents who sent in lots of suggestions and advice on what should be put into the time capsule. This has mostly been Alexis's project, although the whole Centennial Committee has worked very hard on this and everything else involved in the Centennial celebration. I'll take a minute, so this might be the last time we're thanking them, Chet, Nikki, and all the rest of the Centennial Committee for their work in that. And Alexis, you want to talk about the time capsule a little bit?
I actually am going to defer to Mr. Bayshore first, and then we'll come back to me.
Okay.
I'm not sure there's reason to defer to me because I believe Jim read my script.